She watched a young man get fired, weep as he handed over his uniform, and then she smiled. For 10 years, the wife of one of Europe's richest men was a monster in a tailored dress. Victoria Ashford didn't just fire people. She broke them, and she did it for sport. Nobody in London's elite dared to challenge her. Nobody even tried. Then came Rachel Bennett, a broke, unemployed investigative journalist turned waitress with nothing left to lose. This is the true story of how one woman brought down an empire of fear. Not with money, not with social power, but with a single common 4-letter name. And I promise you, by the end of this story, you'll know exactly how fragile true power really is. This isn't just about revenge. This is about what happens when the truth is finally weaponized. Stay with me. Creator call to action. Before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments what you think Victoria's deepest secret is. Let's see who gets it right. Let me tell you a story about power, the mask it wears, and the price of saying enough. The Golden Rose in the heart of London wasn't a restaurant. It was a museum of wealth. Everything was designed to whisper elite. The silk on the walls, the original art, the quiet echo of money. But in this beautiful, expensive world, there was one person who brought the silence of true terror. Victoria Ashford. Her husband, Lawrence Ashford, built skyscrapers and tech empires. But Victoria? She built her life on the ruin of others. Every Friday night, 8 p.m., she took her corner booth, dressed like a queen surveying her domain. The staff called it the reckoning. They'd seen the cruelty. The young bartender who mixed her cocktail with a single drop too much vermouth? She didn't just get him fired. She made sure his name was blacklisted across the entire city. She specialized in total destruction. Rachel Bennett was 32. A woman who had once chased global scoops as an investigative journalist. Now, her life was a stack of bills and a faded resume. She had traded the adrenaline of finding facts for the misery of balancing 3 plates at once. On her first day at the Golden Rose, she felt like an alien in a poorly fitting uniform. George, the oldest waiter, a man whose face was mapped with years of carrying other people's stress, gave her the only real warning. "See that booth?" he whispered, pointing. "That's where the dragon sits. One wrong breath near her, and your life is over. She doesn't see us as people, Rachel. We are just obstacles to her perfect night." That night, Rachel watched Victoria arrive. Her dress was spectacular, her diamonds blinding, but it was her eyes, ice blue, sharp, and empty, that chilled Rachel. Beside her, her husband Lawrence looked less like a billionaire and more like a guard locked outside his own beautiful prison. Victoria spent the evening carving up the atmosphere with soft, surgical complaints. The wine was common. The lighting was insulting. Each word was a calculated strike. Then it happened. A nervous young busboy named Daniel leaned in to clear the next table. He never touched Victoria's plate, but she recoiled as if he'd spat on it. "Excuse me," she said, 2 soft words that stole all the oxygen from the room. "Your sleeve contaminated my air, boy. My entire appetite is ruined." She pushed her untouched dish away with a single, disgusted finger. The manager rushed over, panic dripping from his apologies. Daniel stood there, trembling, his face chalk white. It was a public execution. As Rachel watched this purely malicious display of power, something ignited in her chest. It wasn't pity. It was the fire of a hunter. This wasn't about soup or sleeves. It was about abuse. Rachel had spent 3 years learning how to find the cracks in a tyrant's armor. And she was certain. This dragon's armor was paper thin. A week later, the manager, Mr. Peton, looked like a defeated general when he assigned Rachel to table 12. Victoria's table. Rachel didn't panic. She prepared. She was an investigator going undercover. She memorized the enemy's file. Still water, no ice, 1 paper-thin slice of lime. Sourdough only. She executed the first hour flawlessly. Then came the French onion soup. When Rachel placed the steaming bowl down, the melted cheese was perfect. But Victoria stared at it, dipped her spoon halfway, and stopped. "It's cold," she announced. loud enough for a dozen tables to hear. Completely cold. I expect my food to be hot. Is that difficult, Rachel? Rachel knew the soup was hot, but she didn't argue. Victoria wasn't looking for a mistake to correct. She was looking for a slave to humiliate. She was waiting for the apology, the tears, the fear. Instead, Rachel did the one thing Victoria didn't expect. She activated her journalist mode. "I apologize, Mrs. Ashford," Rachel said, her voice a flat, professional sheet of ice. "I will bring a fresh, piping hot bowl immediately." Victoria's perfectly sculpted expression wavered. She placed her hand on the bowl. "No, the moment is ruined. You see, Lawrence? The standards here are falling." Lawrence Ashford looked up, defeated. "It's just soup, Victoria." "It is never just soup, Lawrence. It's about standards this waitress clearly doesn't understand." Victoria's gaze returned to Rachel, a shard of ice. "Learn the difference between hot and cold, Rachel, if you expect to last another day here." Rachel held the gaze. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. "Thank you for the feedback, Mrs. Ashford." She took the bowl and walked away with measured steps. That calm was not what Victoria wanted. She wanted a meltdown. Rachel's cool refusal to be a victim infuriated her. Rachel had refused to play the game by the dragon's rules. Lawrence slipped Rachel a quiet 200-pound note as they left. "She's under stress." "I'm sorry," he mumbled. But Rachel knew it wasn't about stress. It was about control. And now, the woman who had spent years as a journalist chasing the truth was going to start chasing Victoria's. Rachel's mentor's voice echoed in her mind. "The cruelest people build their houses on the most fragile lies. Find the right crack." Rachel's investigation started with the staff. Every story they told, the ridiculous demands, the obsessive focus on manners, the rages over common taste, pointed to a single truth. Victoria was terrified of appearing common. George offered the key. She just appeared 10 years ago after the engagement. Before that, nobody in London society had ever heard of Victoria Sterling from Bath. She's a woman with no past. That night, Rachel went home and dug. Victoria Sterling, Bath. Nothing. Too neat, too polished. The name was a shield. Then she changed tactics. She ran a reverse image search on Victoria's oldest society photo. Useless until she hit the 12th page and found a link to a defunct, forgotten talent agency website in Manchester from 2 decades ago. She clicked the client page. And there it was. A younger, brasher face with cheap dye in her hair and too much aggressive makeup. The bone structure was the same, the cold determination in the eyes was the same. But the name beneath the photo was not Victoria Sterling. It was Vicky Brightwell. The electricity of discovery surged through Rachel. She searched, "Vicky Brightwell, Manchester." The results poured in, a local modeling competition, and then the jackpot. A video clip from an obscure, forgotten reality TV show from 2004 called Motorway Dreams. The show followed promotional models at a car racing circuit. Rachel clicked the video. The quality was awful, but the image was undeniable. A young, rough around the edges Vicky Brightwell, screaming, her accent pure, working-class Manchester. The aristocratic voice was a lie. Rachel found a former classmate of Vicky's named Beth. Beth confirmed the rest. Vicky was desperate to get out, hated everything about where she came from. The show made her look common. She disappeared, and then years later, there she was in a society magazine, calling herself Victoria Sterling. Rachel leaned back in her chair. Victoria's cruelty was now a desperate defense mechanism. Every time she humiliated a waiter, she was trying to destroy the ghost of Vicky Brightwell. Rachel Bennett, the broke waitress, now held the power to destroy the empire built on that lie. The question was how to use it. 3 weeks later, Victoria returned to the Golden Rose. But this time, she was alone. No husband, no diamonds, just a severe black suit. She looked like a judge arriving for a final, terrifying sentencing. She walked straight to her table and signaled for Rachel. Mr. Peton moved to intercept, but Rachel shook her head. This was her war. Rachel walked to the table. "Good evening, Mrs. Ashford." Victoria didn't reply. She pointed a finger at the chair across from her. Sit. Rachel hesitated. Mrs. Ashford, I'm on duty. Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper, cold and lethal. Sit, or I will buy this restaurant by tomorrow and have it demolished into a car park. Your choice. Rachel sat, back straight, eyes locked on the dragon. I know what you're doing, Victoria hissed, leaning forward. My husband's legal team has investigated your pathetic little life. I know you're a failed journalist drowning in debt. You are a nobody. I will destroy every corner of your life. I will call every employer. I will sue you into bankruptcy. Do you understand me? Rachel listened to the threats without flinching. This was the fire, the desperate attempt to incinerate the truth before it could see the light. Rachel leaned forward, her voice soft, carrying a hidden dagger. You're right. I'm a very good researcher. And I know you're not Victoria Sterling from Bath. I know you're Vicky Brightwell from Manchester. Victoria's face did not just tighten. It shattered. The blood drained from her perfect mask. I know about Motorway Dreams, Rachel continued, hitting the name like a gong. I know about the racing circuit, the beauty pageant finale, the moment you had a complete, screaming breakdown on camera over a cheap little tiara. At the word, tiara, Victoria lost control. Her breath caught in a ragged gasp. She looked not like a powerful wife, but like the terrified, common girl from her past. Rachel took control of the room, the conversation, and Victoria's life. Here is what happens now. You are going to get up and you are going to leave this restaurant. You are never coming back. You will never harass or threaten this staff ever again. She paused, letting the weight of the moment crush the other woman. If I ever hear a whisper of you causing trouble, I will release that tape. I will send the footage of Vicky Brightwell screaming about her tiara on Motorway Dreams to every newspaper, every website, and every single person in your social circle. Your husband might forgive you for hating cold soup, but I wonder how he'll feel about his wife being exposed as a cheap reality TV star. Victoria stared, pure hatred battling pure defeat in her ice-blue eyes. She had been found out. The secret Rachel held was a greater threat than any amount of money. Slowly, shakily, Victoria Ashford rose. She didn't say a word. She didn't look at anyone. She turned and walked out of the Golden Rose. The doors closed behind her. The dragon was gone. A stunned, beautiful silence filled the dining room. Then, from the kitchen, a quiet, growing applause began. Mr. Peton looked at Rachel, speechless. Rachel simply let out the breath she'd been holding, picked up her water pitcher, and with a small, genuine smile, said, Table 6 needs a refill. She had faced the monster and she had won. Not with fury, but with the quiet, undeniable power of the truth. Because bullies, no matter how rich, are just scared people hiding behind masks. And Rachel had the courage to pull that mask away. Victoria Ashford was never seen again in that part of London. She retreated into a gilded cage, a ghost in her own mansion, haunted by the past she could not control. As for Rachel, her act of courage caught the attention of someone in the dining room that night, a wealthy entrepreneur named David Chun, who owned a private investigation firm. A week later, he approached her. The way you think, the way you stayed calm under pressure, the way you found a truth no one else could touch, those are the rarest skills. I want to hire you as my lead investigator. Rachel looked at the card, then back up at the future. When do I start? 3 months later, she was back doing what she loved. Uncovering the truth, but this time for good. The lesson of the Golden Rose is this. Bullies, whether on a playground or in a 5-star restaurant, rely on silence. They rely on fear. Victoria Ashford ruled through terror for years, not because she was strong, but because no one was brave enough to challenge her. One waitress, with no money, no connections, and nothing but the truth, was all it took to make the entire facade crash down. You don't have to be rich to be powerful. You don't have to be famous to be brave. You just have to refuse to be afraid. Because the most powerful word is not money or power. It's the single, undeniable, weaponized word of truth. Final sign-off. Thank you for watching. If this story showed you the power of standing up, hit the like button and share it. Until next time, remember, what truths are you letting go unchallenged?